And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. If you guys are new to us here on Amazon, welcome. We're counting down to Prime Day. We have just 4 days left, if you can believe that. And I'm going to be with you guys literally all day, both days, on July 16th and 17th. So make sure you guys do hit that follow button. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. You will also see the book by our next guest. We're so excited to welcome author and poet Lauren Martin to our broadcast today. Had a chance to interview her on Conversations Live, the radio show. You guys can also find that on Amazon Music, about the book that you guys see there, Night of the Hawk. We're going to talk to Lauren not only about the writing of the book, but what it's like for her to be so vulnerable on the page and to be able to share that with all of us and build connections, I think, with her readers too. We're simulcasting our broadcast today, so we do welcome those tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, as well as on Instagram. Glad you all could be with us as well. For you guys on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, the link is there for you guys to be able to get your copy of the book with Lauren on X and on Instagram. We'll have to add that later for you guys. But Lauren, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I always enjoy conversations with you.
I appreciate that. That is a compliment for sure. So, Lauren, I meant what I said in my introduction about being vulnerable on the page. I'm someone who grew up journaling, and a lot of our audience have been able to use journals to be able to kind of share their thoughts and feelings. What has it been like for you now through Night of the Hawk to share your thoughts and feelings with us?
I mean, I love that about you, that you are like a champion for emotion and vulnerability, which is, to me, just so the key human experience that we all share is our emotionality and our vulnerability. And so for me in writing, so much of what I write sometimes feels like it's, kind of channeled, I don't know, from somebody else's ancestors, from my ancestors. But I feel like I need that very genuine expression, whether it's through poems or through human interaction, as the sustenance for my life. It really is what gives my life meaning. And I think it's what makes everything in the world rich.
Love that. Love that. Well, Lauren, I know I'm old enough to remember when people used to think that, yeah, poetry was nice, but you never be able to do anything with it. I mean, I'll be 49 this year. And I remember when I was growing up, I told people I wanted to be an author, and an artist. They would say, well, you know what? That sounds great, but you're not going to be famous until you're dead. The world has definitely changed a lot in that amount of time. So I want to ask you about that part, because I think for a lot of people who grew up saying, I want to write, I want to do this, I want to do that. What is it like for you through Night of the Hawk now to say, I've actually done it?
It is kind of surprising. I mean, I think I told you before that I had this strange experience when I was in 6th grade where somebody identified something I wrote as poetic, even before I knew what that meant. And then I went into a poetry writing class, and I studied it in college. And yet, because I contemplated getting an MFA and I didn't end up doing that. I ended up, being a therapist, going on an arduous shamanic journey. And I thought, oh, I'll never be able to put a book together and get it published. And I think, people really become so interested in poetry, creativity, writing, that there's a lot more room. There's a bigger expanse in terms of access and curiosity that doesn't, fit this traditional mold of academia, and you get an MFA and then you publish your chapbook. And then, so it's been really lovely having written my whole life, studied it, and never really thought I would end up with a published book.
Yeah, I love that. Daybreak 197, thank you for joining us on the IG side. Daybreak 197 says, Lauren, I understand that ghostwriting experience in my poetry that easily rhymes. For some reason, I don't plan. I think, and that's the cool thing, right? You now become a part of this community once you share, I write poetry or I like poetry. A lot of people are afraid to say it. Have you found that, Lauren, that once you've expressed it, that other people are like, you know what? I like that too, and want to be able to be a part of that community with you.
It's so fascinating. There are people that in my life who I'm really close to, who know that I write, who I've spammed with my poems periodically, who are like, FYI, I don't get poetry. I'm like, whoa. And then there are all these people that are like, my neighbor, turns out she writes poetry. And I mean, so it is this incredibly fascinating thing, the connections that you make that you didn't expect to make. And you're walking down the street and somebody could be a fellow poet right there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So take us back a little bit, Lauren. We're going to get into Night of the Hawk here, and I want to share with our audience two of the pieces that really resonated with me that address things that I think our audience will appreciate. When did you know that you had something? I think that is always a thing, right? A lot of times people don't know how to identify it. You just mentioned, someone calling what you wrote poetic. When did you know, though, that writing was a gift that you've been given?
I think probably around that time, I definitely was a sensitive child and continue to be a sensitive human being.
Hmm.
And that has always expressed itself in my love of nature and word and imagery. So I think, very young, I knew that that was important to me, and it continued with this particular book. I got more of a sense of it after I was really disabled in 2015 with a spinal injury, and ended up spending it's about 9 years mostly in bed. And it was then that I really wrote most of these poems. And my sister was the one that said, I think people would read these, so, and I
Mm,
had been submitting them and they had gone nowhere. So,
yeah.
it was really that process that consolidated the idea of the book.
Love that. Well, shout out to She Writes Press, who is one of my favorite publishers I've worked with over the years, Lauren. So glad that they were able to present Night of the Hawk for us in the world. I want to go back over to Instagram. Manswell says hello to you, Lauren. Sherry Marie, hello to you. Good to be able to see you join us as well. She says, good question. Thank you for that. Sherry, Dr. Zunzi McLaurin, thank you so much for joining us over there on IG as well. And let's see, we have Daybreak 197 says, we do writing prompts to music every Jazz Sunday night. The mellow music helps the writing flow. I love that. I love that. So I want to talk about the way you decided to write Night of the Hawk for those who haven't read it. And I should let our audience know, if you guys are Kindle readers, this book's only 99 cents right now on Amazon. I have it highlighted in the carousel here on Amazon. You can get the Kindle for only 99 cents, or you can get the paperback like I have for $15.95. So you have the two options. If you want to start reading Lauren's book right now, go ahead and spend the buck and be able to get the Kindle edition. But I tell you, the two things that really struck me, Lauren, about the book when I was first reading it for our radio interview, is that I love the fact that you're able to talk about, for one, our mortality.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one of my favorite poems in the book, and I marked it so I can easily find it during a live broadcast.
Okay.
And that is the piece 1969. And you talk about this. A lot of times people worry about remembering. You talk about sometimes the benefits of forgetting. I want to talk about that. How did that poem come about?
Um, well, I think, as I was lying in bed and feeling very disconnected from the world, and I already have this feeling of being in a different reality because of the way I see things psychologically and because of my spiritual process.
Mhm.
I just was thinking, as I was lying there aging, I thought, maybe it's okay that you forget some of the earlier things. And then it made me think of the counterpiece of all the richness that does come with age. That there's so much depth that we have as we kind of layer upon ourselves our histories and our experiences in the context of our understanding. So I kind of, a lot in my work and thinking, try to talk about the way that the negative is also the positive, and it's also the unifier. Because I think that we all have our individual experiences that make us feel different and left out, but though that experience, the emotion of that is the unifier. So it's not, I think it's less about the actual experience, it's more about the heart, and the heartbreak and love are sort of the same physiology, and we share that.
Love that. Love that. And, Lauren, Sherry asked a good question. Sherry, I just checked. Sherry asked if it is available on Audible. I don't see it on Audible right now. We will ask Lauren a little bit later, though, if there's plans to make it available on Audible. But right now, it's just available in paperback. It's Kindle, as far as what I can see on Amazon. To that point, then, Lauren, I love that you said that, because I think a lot of times in life, one of the benefits, and sometimes I think we give ourselves a hard time, right? Because we do focus on things sometimes we don't need to.
Right.
When I read 1969, you know what I thought about? I thought about personally the importance of letting go of the anchors, the things
Right.
sometimes that hold us back because we're focused so much on what was, that we
Right.
can't really appreciate what we have today. So I want
Right.
to ask about that, because you also talk about another great piece when you're talking about, of course, how, different ailments may rob us of time and space.
Right.
You talk about the importance of the present. How has writing helped you with that, to appreciate the moment that's in front of you?
I think, it's been really, so nature is so key to me. And it's also very key in my shamanistic tradition, which is, kind of worships nature as a extension of God.
Hmm.
And so what's been fascinating to me is that in my injury, laying in bed, that I could still access that, that I have one window, and in that present moment, I was there, words were there, my faith was there, my experience of nature was there, the moon came up, the sun came up. I mean, and the beauty of that was really powerful. And I felt like, wow, this is, if I don't make it through this, this is enough. That's kind of where I ended up with it.
Yeah. Wow. And I think, again, you've been able to connect with people in that. Did you know when you were writing Night of the Hawk, did you know, Lauren, that this was something that was bigger than you? That what you were voicing may have been your experiences, but that they were also shared experiences?
I did. I mean, the poem, there's several poems that made me feel that. I don't always edit. I often dream my poetry, so I'll wake up
Mm,
and it's there. So
okay.
the poem, the Chibok Girl poem, The Waiting Tree, I woke up and that super long poem was there, which makes me feel like, that's somebody's grandmother saying, "Speak for these women." And then something like Ode, I really feel like, the whole issue of whether or not you're pro-choice, anti-choice, whatever you're, thinking, loses the story. It loses the individual story of women, and that women have abortions, don't have abortions, have kids, get pregnant. And because this is such a litigated issue, women don't get to share about their nuanced experience and how that changes over time. And there's so many interesting stories there that we're not hearing about. So when I wrote Ode, I felt like, this is crazy. We're negotiating the legality of this, and women aren't getting to talk about what their experiences and thoughts are because there's all this shame associated with it. So I felt like that poem was very much me trying to speak for women. There are several poems like that in the book. I'm sure you know.
Yeah, yeah. I want to say, because I know you're going to read something for us. Hello to you, Tina. Good to be able to see you over there on the IG side. Dr. Zunzi says, yes, focusing on the now and not the past will guide us to new beginnings. I love that. Camilla, hello to you. Good to be able to see you over there on the IG side as well. And I see you guys over there on LinkedIn and X as well. So I want to say, for those who are just tuning in, welcome. You're watching Cyrus Represents. We're primarily broadcasting on Amazon Live. That's where you guys can be able to see the book by our guest, Lauren Martin, today. The book is Night of the Hawk. However, if you guys are joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, you'll see the link there that'll bring you over to Amazon. For those joining us on X and Insta, on Instagram, I make sure that we post it in the stories for you guys. But Lauren is talking with us about her book, Night of the Hawk. And Lauren, when we were talking, I asked you if you wanted to read something. What would you like to share with our audience?
Well, maybe I'll read. There's a poem that is also about mortality. It's about my dad.
Mhm.
It's called After the Fall, a love song,
Okay.
which is page 63 if you want to
Okay.
look. um, After the Fall, a love song. There is music playing everywhere you stand, a celebration of your life, all those you helped and taught and healed. After the fall, you lost your ability to conduct with your hands, lost your ability to travel the rough terrain of the higher notes, over mountains, through time zones, alone, to where the whippoorwill lulled you. You with your camera's eye and silent verse. After the fall, all I thought about was your death, and that every moment could be our last. I'm not getting enough time. I don't want to be here without you. And that is the song I sing. Not the happy call of the whippoorwill, but the lone cry of the loon on Dog Cove, left alone in the beginning of fall, too heavy to take flight, yet with low winds. After the fall, you knew it too. You knew your life had changed forever. Notes you wrote in your orchestration quietly, the angry crescendo over such helplessness you never shared. I could have tolerated the persistent trill of the bohemian waxwing. I'm scared. I'm lonely. I'm excited to see you. All the notes sung mostly in Canada and occasionally New England. You left those calls in another country. After the fall, your story still grew as you refined the place that gave you care, humbly sounding your signature drum, taught that the pride of life is the notes that linger, not the ones with your name. But on this day, I call you out, Father. I sing out my song for the man who taught me to persevere with my betraying human form and allow the mourning dove to both soothe and unearth the grief in others. After the fall, the unspoken song means the most.
Wow, that's beautiful. And it reminds me when I read that poem initially, Lauren, I didn't tell you the story. I lost my grandmother, who was I was her primary caregiver in 2014,
Oh, wow.
and her life changed that year after she had a fall early that year, and she just went down from there. And when I first read that poem, I thought about is how life does change in a moment,
Right.
and how it really does help us to put things in perspective. So I want to ask you for our audience. Daybreak 197 says, this is awesome. Thanks for doing this today, Ms. Lauren. And Ms. Zunzi says, looking forward to reading the book. You're going to enjoy it, Dr. Zunzi. Glad you could say that. So I want to ask you about that. When you read those words today, does it take you back to that place?
Yeah, and I think the thing that is fascinating about my dad, the lessons that he left us and always has taught us are that, we have to contribute to the world, but it's not about us. That's kind of our, scripture is what are we giving back? What are we leaving? What are we doing with other human beings? And he did, you know, address the problems in his assisted living. And, that was still who he was and wasn't about, an emotional communication with me or anything else. But he really taught me so much, even in that painful moment that he was in.
Yeah. Dr. Zondi says after the fall is a powerful tale to the beginnings of new chapters. And I think that's the thing. I think for so many people who are able to now pick up your book, I should let our audience know at the time we're having this conversation, Lauren's book is a top 100 bestseller on Amazon right now. So congratulations to you, Lauren, on that. I love the fact that people are getting the book, appreciating the book. And as I said, our audience can one-click the Kindle edition right now for only 99 cents. I see some of you guys are already getting it for yourselves there, or you can be able to get the paperback there for $15.95 as well. So, Lauren, for those who are just discovering Night of the Hawk, what do you hope the book collectively does for the reader?
I hope it inspires people to keep going, no matter what their experience, to feel like there's a voice for everyone, and to look at people differently with kindness. I mean, I that is our greatest human connection and gift is that we can all share. I mean, I love people. I really do. I love humanity, and I think that even though people get scared and they make mistakes, there's something so rich in everyone, and we can hopefully. I hope my words inspire us to see other people that are different than us and connect with them.
Love that. Again, everyone, Lauren Martin has been our guest. The book is Night of the Hawk. You can get it in paperback or Kindle. Great conversation with you. Lauren, it's great to be able to see you face to face. I know last time we had you on the radio show, so it was just audio only. So it's great to be able to see you. How can our audience stay connected with you, Lauren?
I am a meager supporter of Instagram, mostly nails and dogs, but you can check me out at Frankie Franky is a star. That's my dog. Or I'm on Facebook. And I have a website, laurenmartin.net, so you can reach out to me any way you want.
Awesome. Well, Lauren, thank you again for stopping by Amazon Live and looking forward to our next chat together.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Very glad to do it. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.